What's up guys, KY Not Kinda Creative, and today we're back with another video breakdown of a project that I'm working on right now and actually have half delivered already to the client, which is Cellucor and C4 Energy. Now, if you guys are American, you guys know the Cellucor C4 Energy Xtend brand. Now, there's also a small team here in Canada of athletes that didn't get a lot of love on their social media pages, mostly because they didn't have a lot of content to go around. So I was actually commissioned to go and shoot some content to go and send back to Cellucor, but as well, I was given the choice to make a director's cut, a little compilation video of what we captured on that day. Now, first of all, we're going to talk about some of the gear that we used for the particular shoot. I had to get a lot of things done in a very short period of time. We only had about 4 hours in the gym. I had a small crew of myself and a couple other people with 3 athletes and a lot of content we had to shoot. This was actually the first time I've ever shot a full project on the FX6. Now, I usually have the FX3 on me for things like that are run and gun. I usually have it on me for a lot of the work that I've been doing for the last little bit, but today I decided I was going to try out the FX6 because in my business and kind of going forward, I need another camera. I need a bigger, more robust camera for some of the shoots that I do. The FX3 just doesn't cut it. There's 3 particular parts of my business. There's professional photography, there's the YouTube content that you see with a lot of influencers and YouTubers that you see me working with, and then I also DP on shoots like these ones for brands. And I wanted to have a distinct camera setup for each and every one of those. So today, I'm using the FX6, which was to kind of have a better looking set and better looking production when your client sees you on a bigger camera, and B, I want to find out if this is the camera for me for that A cam, that big cinema body that I could rig out for client shoots just like this one. Also, some of the lighting that we use, I actually use the Falconized light panel that I use for a lot of videos because it's small, it's compact, it's easy to move around, it's easy to rig up on a C stand and good to go. I use the Aperture 300D, which worked as a background light as well as a key light in some situations, and then I use my Nanlite Pavo tube set. The Nanlite Pavo tube has been really clutch as of late because they're super compact, they're easy to use, they're super affordable, and they're full RGB. So when I'm getting some of these RGB looks, I'm able to set up a Nanlite Pavo tube and I can get those color contrasts, I can get those kind of looks that you want when you have RGB lights, and start to use color in some of the footage that we had. And because Cellucor has really popping colors, I wanted to use a combination of yellow with some of the contrasting colors. So you see a lot of blue and a lot of teal that are in there that contrast with that yellow tone. Okay, now let's go through some of the shots. So the first shot is gonna be this locker room shot where I wanted to have one of the athletes kind of in the locker room, kind of sitting there, make it dark and make it moody, and they're gonna actually start having some of the products that Cellucor C4 offers, right? So before you work out, usually you can have a pre-workout of some sort, so you really don't wanna have protein before a workout, but you're going to have pre-workout. So we put that inside of the bag and we lit it up using the 2 Nanlite Pavo tubes, and we actually used an overhead light setup. At first we were gonna use the Aperture 300D for this particular setup, but because the light was too close to the ceiling, I decided to opt for the Falconized instead. I used my RS2 with the FX3, which is where this camera sat on. The FX3 actually sat on the RS2 gimbal, or I use the FX6 for handheld shots, which, to be honest, I only use the FX3 for these gimbal shots, and I use the FX6 for the remainder of the shoot. And to be honest, that's probably gonna be the workflow that I'm gonna use if I have those 2 cameras. Now, we did the action shots, and it's your run-of-the-mill fitness shots where you're gonna have different exercises being used from different angles and things like that. But what I want to talk about is some of the hero shots, some of the product placement shots. Now, knowing the scope of this project, a lot of this footage is gonna get sent back to Cellucor. I don't know how they're going to use this, so I had to get certain types of shots with different athletes. There was 3 athletes that were there, so I had to set up something where that was super easy and I could just have one athlete do a product placement and go on to the next one. So what I did was I set up 2 Nanlite Pavo tubes in the background. Now you'll see a lot of people using tube lights as their practicals and shots and using a single key light, and I did exactly that. And all I did was I did push-ins of each product that they had to offer with each athlete, and we made sure that we had a good array of those, so when we send it back, they can make their pre-roll ads and do whatever they want with them. This is a really easy setup and a very common one in a lot of fitness videos because it's easy, it's simple, it doesn't take very long to set up, and once you have it done, it's always a really good look, it's always a really dope vibe, and you do get a lot of light and you do get a lot of contrast, and it looks very cinematic. Now let's talk action shots. I was gonna talk about them last because I always talk about them when I'm talking about fitness videos like these, but something in particular we were trying to get is we're trying to get one shot that I've seen in a Morgan Cooper video and I've seen on Full-Time Filmmaker where the athlete actually throws water at a piece of plexiglass where it makes it look like it's throwing it at the lens. And in trying to do that, this is what happened.
It went straight to your leg. You know what it is?
And that goes into something that I would change about this shoot. If I'm gonna do shots like this, I would have probably brought a bigger piece of plexiglass. Now, something else I would have changed about this particular shoot, and going into things that I would like to change, this shoot went really, really well, but I wish I had a better control over the location. When you turn off all the lights in that particular gym, there's emergency lights that stay on, and there's also windows at the back where there's street lights outside. So you have an orange tungsten background, and the lights overhead, I don't have control over exactly which ones turn off. I wish if I had more time or had more budget that I could set up my own lights in place of some of those so I could light up the background. Now what I had to do instead is I used the Aperture 300D and I shot it right at the ceiling, and I used my falconized panel as my key light, and then I used the two nan lights as backlights. Now that worked really, really well, and it's hard to tell the difference, but if I didn't have that backlight, it would look really dark and really flat, and it would kind of take you out of the story and it wouldn't look that great. So with more time and more budget, I wish I had a better chance to put more practicals in the background to help light up my shots. Another thing I wish I happened, and this has kind of nothing to do with me, but I wish I either had more time or less athletes to shoot. We had to do photo a little bit at the end, but when I have only a certain amount of time to shoot a bunch of shots that have to go back to a company, I always feel like I missed something. And to be honest, I think I did. I think there's certain shots that I wanted to get, like solo of just the product on its own. I do know they're going to be using it for pre-roll ads and things like that, but I wish I had my own flavor of shots like that so I can deliver those off to there as well, especially if I want to use it in my final edit. Now, I might have to go and reshoot some of those. It might only take me a little bit of time, but I wish I had some of those right at the get-go, but that would require more time for me to shoot on set. And that's pretty much it. It's a really quick video about my experience with shooting for Cellucor Xtend C4. I actually don't really know what to call them if it's one name, but they're all owned by the same people. So after all of this, and after shooting with Cellucor and using the FX6 for the majority of the shoot, a lot of you might have the question of whether or not I want to pick up the FX6 later on. And to be completely honest, that was my initial plan anyways. When I switched from Sony to Canon, I originally wanted to go and pick up the FX6 body at my local camera store, but it turns out, like a lot of places in the world, it's not available. So I picked up the FX3 as kind of a stopgap measure and something that's gonna function as an in-between camera. Now, my business, like I mentioned, kind of hinges upon three very important pillars. One is professional photography for fitness influencers, brands, magazines, and things like that. The FX3 I use a lot for vlog content for some of your favorite YouTubers that you guys might not even know that I shoot for. And the third part of my business, which is getting to pick up, is doing brand work and actually just shooting a bunch of content and sending it back off to the in-house teams for your bigger supplement companies for them to edit later on. Now, I have two cameras that satisfy two of those needs, and I've been using the FX3 to do double duty, but I want to pick up the FX6 for something like a higher budget commercial, something I could use higher quality glass on, and something that's a little bit more robust, something that's a little bit easier to shoot handheld and still has a versatility and minimal file sizes compared to a RED camera that could still handle high quality projects. So the FX6 is something I'll be looking at in the future. I have an order in multiple camera stores. It just hasn't come in yet. So it was really nice to be able to use that in a real live situation doing it for a client project. So that is pretty much my opinion on whether or not I want to get the FX6 later on in my filmmaking career. Being said, this is the end of the video. This is pretty short and just my experience with shooting with a brand like Cellucor, and a special thanks for them for reaching out to me. The contact that I had actually was a previous client in a different company, and when he called me up, I was super excited to actually have that experience to shoot with a company that a lot of people know in Canada and the United States, and maybe I'll get shipped out to the States and do some things later on. But if you guys like this type of content, make sure you comment, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.